I think that we need to see the data. There are three sets of data that are coming before the September, and then decide. That's why we say that we are delta dependent. I don't think that there is a reason to say now what we're going to do in September, but given how strong the underlying inflation pressures were, I think that there is a good chance that we will have to hike also in September. But let's see first the data. We have three things on which we base our decisions. One are the forecasts, second is the inflation data, and the third is the strength of the transmission mechanism. In that sense, we will look at all three and decide, but I think in this situation where the uncertainty is high, I would put more weight on the observables rather than on unobservables.
Let's look at the inflationary trend. Croatia is also a country very much depending as well on the summer tourism season. So would you say that there is a risk that we are seeing an uptick in inflation during the summer period?
Yes, that's what we are seeing now. The demand is very strong, and we do see the strong services inflation. We see higher pressures on the service sector than in the goods sector. This is certainly also because of the very high demand for the services still.
Is that something you should look through as a central bank and treat it as so-called noise because it's a seasonal effect, or is that something which you would say, okay, this also would warrant more rate hikes?
No, that also warrants more rate hikes. I don't think this is a kind of a persistent thing, even if it's seasonal. You know, it comes every season with the tourists coming into Croatia, but I also think that these days we're seeing higher demand pressures than we've seen in the past.
Yeah. If you look at the Governing Council, I mean, I get the impression that the Hawks do form the majority of the opinion building. Is that the case?
Oh, I wouldn't go into judging the camps, Hawks versus the Doves. But I would say that there is quite a strong degree of consensus up until now on what to do.
The side effects, you've already mentioned it, might be a recession, might be less growth. How vulnerable do you think is the Eurozone economy as a whole to that elevated level of interest rates?
I think that we can still engineer kind of a soft landing without causing a deep recession, or maybe even without causing a recession at all. Labor market is very strong, which is good on one hand. It doesn't help with the bringing down the inflation on the other hand, but I think that the job can be done without too much damage or too much, as we call it, sacrifice ratio.
Another tool which you don't really touch apart from not reinvesting is the balance sheet of the ECB. Would you be in favor of perhaps rethinking that and perhaps selling some assets a bit more quicker?
For the time being, I don't think there is a need to sell assets, but we should continue to bring down the balance sheet through stop of the reinvestments. There is no need anymore to reinvest. We have to shrink the balance sheet, and this is a good tool for the time being.